Zombicide, big box full of miniatures, terrain tiles, full of stuff. Definitely an imposing box. The title tells you pretty much the topic. We are back to the zombie apocalypse. Back because of course there are many games that cover the subject, and I don't mind that at all. I like the subject, I'm fascinated by it, and I think this is just good training for when the zombie apocalypse does happen, so we're ready. Zombicide, this is a co-op game in which the player or players will try to survive several types of scenarios. There is a pretty good scenario book here of missions that you can attempt. The common thread, of course, is that you try to survive and the zombies try to snack on you. When I started inquiring about the game, looking pictures and trying to get information about the game to get a sense of what the game was like, I initially had the impression that this was a sort of Last Night on Earth with better components and on steroids. Now let me show you how the game plays and then we'll go back to this point. Is Zombicide Last Night on Earth with better components and on steroids? And if so, would that be such a bad thing? This is the board for the game, or maybe I should say one of the possible boards for the game. The game comes with a set of terrain tiles that you will combine in different ways, depending on the scenario that you're playing, different configurations. Also, those tiles are double-sided, that adds to the number of options that you have. Each scenario will give you an area where the survivors start their adventure. In this case, the survivor starts there. You see them right there. I've just set up a solitaire game, and when you play a solitaire game, you use 4 characters. The map is divided in areas. Some are outside, and those are the areas for the outside, basically representing the streets. And then you have the inside of the buildings. Each area is represented by a single room. There are doors that you add to the map. Those are small tiles. You add them again according to scenario instructions. One side of the tile represents a closed door, and on the other side you have the door after it has been opened. Usually doors start closed at the beginning of the scenario. You have to figure out ways to open them, for example by using crowbars or chainsaws, things like that. You have red markers, just that one, that indicates the spawn areas from which the zombies will enter the board. And then you have objective markers that you place on the board to indicate areas of interest for the survivors. Usually in a scenario, the survivors will need to go around the board and to collect those objective markers to complete the scenario, to win the game. And in fact, in this case, you can see there are several that are placed in different areas on the board. Some scenarios will also give you other instructions, and you will also have to do other stuff on top of simply collecting the objective markers. Each character in the game is represented by a miniature on the board and by a card such as this one. Each card has, of course, the name and an illustration representing the character. Here you have an experience track. Each time that a character eliminates a zombie, the character gains a point of experience, and that is recorded by moving that plastic marker there on the experience track. And as the experience level reaches new color bands on the experience track, the character gains new skills. For example, when the yellow level, Amy gains an extra action. All characters start with 3 actions available to them each turn. They all gain an extra action at the yellow level, and then they get other types of skills when you reach the orange or the red level. Then you also have to choose the type of skill that you want. You don't get both, and in that case you simply add markers such as that one to indicate the skills that the character has acquired. For example, +1 free combat action there, or +1 free move action. Characters also have items. They can carry up to 5 items, but they can only have 2 ready in hand. Of the 5 slots that they have to carry items, 2 are for the cards in hand, and those are cards that can be readily used. The other cards are in reserve. If you want to rearrange your equipment and get new stuff in your hand and put stuff in reserve, then you need to spend actions to do that. The first time that a character is wounded by a zombie, the character receives a wounded card that goes in one of the card in hand slots. So if the character has 2 items, one needs to be discarded. The zombie has snatched an item out of the character's hand. If the character receives a second wound, then the character is eliminated and all of the items that the character had acquired are removed from the game. Each turn starts with a player's turn, during which the characters can be activated and they can spend actions. Each character can perform their actions several times in a turn. Only some actions have limitations and they can be performed only once per turn. And actions can be taken in any order the players want. For one action, a character can move to an adjacent area, but not moving through walls or closed doors. And some characters also a little faster. They can move extra areas. For each move action. If you're in an area that contains zombies, you have to spend an extra action for each zombie that is there to move out of that area. So the character would really need to spend a lot of actions to move out of that area. The character probably doesn't have those actions, so the characters can't move. Some characters may have or acquire the ability to ignore that penalty, but that is usually what happens. When you're with a lot of zombies in your area, you cannot move out of that area. But you can attack. When you're in the same areas with zombies, you can attack with a ranged or a melee weapon. If you are not in an area that contains zombies, then you need to use a ranged weapon, and the zombies must be in range and you must have line of sight. If you are in the same area with the zombies, as I said, you can still use a ranged weapon, you can still shoot at the zombies. Problem is that if your friends are there too, the friends will be hit first. There is an order of priorities when you're assigning hits from ranged weapons, and your friends always get hit before the zombies. Thematically, that is a little shaky. I do not understand why your friends are always constantly in front of your guns before the zombies do. But mechanically, it makes for interesting challenges because you need to make sure that your characters all have both a ranged weapon and a melee weapon, so that depending on the situation, they can still fight against zombies without killing their friends in the process. For an action, you can open a closed door if you have the necessary items. For example, the fire axe is a good tool to open a door. There's a symbol here that indicates that you can open a door with that item. However, there's also a symbol that reminds you that if you do so, you also need to place a noise marker on the board. Noise markers are important during the zombie phase because zombies are attracted by noise and they tend to move towards area where there are noise markers. Also, each survivor on the board counts as a single noise marker. There are other actions that you can perform. For an action, you can rearrange your inventory by moving cards from your card in reserve area to the card in hand areas of your stat card. You could spend an action to take an objective, to activate an objective. There are cars in some scenarios. You can spend actions to get in a car or to drive around. And if you are in an area that is inside a building and contains no zombies, then you can spend an action to search the area. Then you simply draw a card from this deck and you gain an object that you can add to inventory. And there are different types of items, weapons, and other things that can help you in different ways. When you're executing a combat action, you need to use a weapon. Each weapon card will tell you the range. This is, for example, a melee weapon, so range is 0. You need to be in the same area as the opponent. Here, the card tells the number of dice that you roll, the number that you need to roll or exceed to hit. For each such number, you score a hit. And here's the damage, the number of hit points that you inflict on a single target. Usually zombies take a single point of damage to destroy. For example, these are walkers. With a point of damage you can kill one. But there's zombies that are more resilient. This one, for example, this overweight zombie takes 2 hits to destroy. That means that a hit from the chainsaw would destroy that zombie, but a hit from a pistol wouldn't do anything because the pistol only inflicts 1 point of damage each time that it hits. After players are done executing actions, each zombie that is in an area with a survivor will inflict a point of damage on the survivor. The first point of damage inflicts 1 card and removes an item from the hands of the survivor. Second point of damage kills the survivor. So actually, if this is the beginning of the zombie turn, both of these players are dead, because here there are enough zombies to inflict 5 points of damage, then that is more than enough to kill those survivors. That means you just never, ever, ever find yourself in the same area with zombies at the end of your turn. And that means, because that means at the beginning of the zombie's turn. The zombies that have not attacked after the zombie combat phase, that is the first phase in the zombie turn, well, such zombies move, and they will move towards survivors, survivors that they can see, otherwise survivors that have made noise, and zombies usually move by 1 area. There are some zombies that are faster, there are runners, they can perform 2 actions, and that means that they can move up to 2 areas per turn. After all zombies have either attacked or moved, then you spawn new zombies. For each spawn area, those I showed at the beginning of the video, you draw a card such as this one, and you add the type of zombie represented here in the amount indicated. For example, here you have 1 overweight zombie, 3 regular zombies, 2 runners. But which of these levels you use? Well, you remember when I showed you the cards for the characters, the experience levels, you use the band of the spawn card that corresponds to the color of the character with most experience. For example, all characters are at the light blue experience level, and Amy is at the yellow level. Then when you draw a card for each spawn area, you will use the yellow level. If she's the orange level, no matter the level of the other players, you would use the orange level. That means you always use the level of the character who's most experienced. That forces you to try to level up all of the characters at the same time, because if you have a character that is triggering red level, spawning waves each turn, and all the characters are here, then the characters are definitely not equipped to respond to such an increased level of zombie activity. So this is how the game is played. Characters perform actions, then zombies attack, move, and spawn, and you continue repeating the process until either all the players are eliminated or they manage to accomplish the objective of the scenario. Component-wise, this is a very rewarding game. The miniatures look great. You even have several different models for the same type of zombie. For example, you have several runners and several miniatures for different types of walkers, even though those walkers are functionally, mechanically all the same. That is great. That clearly increases the sense of theme. It improves your experience with the game. Terrain tiles, beautiful. I was afraid they may be a little too busy the first time I looked at them, but then it turned out that they're still functional. I didn't have any problem playing with those, so that is great. The game is tough to beat, it's hard to beat, it gives you a lot of options, a lot of different ways in which you can organize your actions. I like the challenges that the system has built in. For example, the fact that you need to level up all of your characters. You cannot just concentrate on creating an alpha character because that's not gonna work. I like that, and that's one of the ways in which actually the game really emphasizes teamwork. Players, characters really have to work together in order to succeed. As the game Last Night on Earth on steroids, I don't know about that, but I know that it feels like a game on steroids. By that, I mean that you really have hordes of miniatures that will crowd the board, that will come out of everywhere, they're removed from the board, they are put back, and I was afraid that that may be a little burdensome from the point of view of keeping, but that didn't turn out to be a problem at all. It just seemed that it made the experience thematically rich. The fact that the action goes on all the time, that there's destruction going on continuously, that the zombies start in small groups and then they do form enormous packs that are extremely hard to break. You simply cannot afford to be caught close to them. All of these things give a specific feel to the game. I don't think that zombie fiction movies should necessarily be minimalistic. I'm fine with a fun, over-the-top, crazy romp with zombies being everywhere and crazy stuff going on all the time. And this is precisely the type of approach that the game has taken on the subject, and I like that. I found that to be really fun, thematically rich, and involving, really engaging from the point of view of gameplay. So, to me, Zombicide is a really good game. I may have said a couple of things here and there, a little bit of nitpicking, for example, about the theme. How is it that when you're in the same space with a survivor, then your fellow survivor will always be in the line of fire, you cannot fire without hitting them. Small things like these, but that really disappear in the overall experience. As I played the game, I was engaged, I was excited, I was interested in maximizing my options while at the same time enjoying the way in which the theme developed and the narrative was becoming more intense and more thematically engaging exponentially, turn after turn. So, Zombicide, to me, a really fun game. If you enjoy tough co-op games or just in general zombie fiction, things that have to do with zombies, I cannot imagine what you may dislike about this game. Zombicide, I definitely enjoyed playing this game very much, and well, if you haven't tried it yet, give it a try. I think you may enjoy it too.